If you met somebody in the 80s or the 90s that went to an Ivy League university and had a 4.0, they were a complete genius. Total nerd, math wizard, walking encyclopedia. They knew everything. Today, not so much. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Eric. There's a lot of different benefits to attending college or university, okay? But ultimately, what you're paying for is that degree, okay, that diploma, and that final transcript. And what everyone's noticed is that those grades on that transcript have gotten higher and higher and higher. Now, there's two explanations for why these grades could be getting higher and higher and higher. Either Gen Z is the smartest generation in history, or the grades are fake or inflated, or however you want to word it. Okay? Now, usually the Daily Mail isn't a good source, but they had this article that claims since 1930, the human brain has grown 7%. Now, even with that extra brain, Gen Z scored lower on IQ and SAT compared to other generations. So that eliminates that answer. So what we're left with is the grades are fake. They're inflated, right? They're not real. So they're not the smart. The Gen Z is not the smartest generation. They do have the highest high school graduation rate and the highest college enrollment rate. And what do those two things prove? Absolutely nothing. So let's talk about this. When I went to college, 96 to 2000, it was hard to get an A. I think I only got 3 A's. I got an A in badminton, which was easy. I was the president of the ping pong club. And then I got one in a journalism class, and then I got one in acting. I took one acting class. It satisfied a requirement for my communication degree, and I think that was it. Now, I'm not going to go through every single Ivy League school. I mean, all the colleges are doing this, but I just want to focus on the Ivy League. Let's look at Harvard. See what they're doing. Okay. Median GPA in 1985, 3.29. Median GPA in 2015, 3.64. Median GPA in 2025, 3.83. Now, I extrapolated this. By the year 2040, the median GPA at Harvard is going to be a 5.0. They're going to have to come up with a new letter beyond A. It's going to be like, Mom, Dad, good news. I made Dean's List. I got all hexagons. Right? Crazy. Now, let's look at the cost of tuition. Forget about room and board. That adds a whole, boatload more of money. But let's just look at tuition and how that's went up. So 1985, tuition is $9,500. 2015, tuition is $40K. 2025, tuition is $56,550. So as you can see, as the median GPA is going up, the tuition is going up. So the more you're paying for that degree, the faker it's getting. That's not a good correlation. Let's look at this other stat. In 2006, 25% of the grades at Harvard were A's. 25%. In 2025, 60% of the grades were A's at Harvard. And then, like a crazy outlier, in 2021, 79% of the grades given out were A's at Harvard. I mean, that year during the Pandeezy, all bets were off. I mean, it was like professors were like Oprah style. It was like, you get an A, you get an A, everybody gets an A, everybody gets an A, here you go. Everything was out of whack during 2021. Some colleges and universities weren't even requiring SAT anymore. They were basing your acceptance on high school GPA, your application essay, and how many boosters you had. So people were writing saying, hey, I'm quad boosted and I have natural immunity to brain fog. And they were getting in. So what's going on? What's causing this fudge? What's causing these grades to get pumped up? The first thing I want to talk about is student evaluations. At the end of the year, you evaluate your professor. So if you say, this professor's too hard, the class is too difficult, he grades too hard, right? That might affect him getting tenure or promotion. And then these evaluations on websites, public websites like Rate My Professor, right? They're saying, this professor's pain in the butt, super hard, doesn't explain things well. Not enough students may sign up for that professor's class. So that's a big factor. After you graduate, recruiters and now these AI tools, they're scanning for GPA. So if some Ivies have higher average GPAs than others, those grads are going to be more employable. And it's kind of like they call it prisoner's dilemma, where one school inflates, one deflates. You're going to get screwed. So it's like a race to the top. One school's average GPA goes up a little, then the rest have to go up a little. The next thing, there's a real emphasis on mental health. So, a lot more students are depressed, anxious, and it's like, hey, if you give this student a D, that's going to ruin their whole month. They might get depressed and drop out. We got to keep these kids here. At college, there's no standardized testing. There's no AP exam. There's no Regents. There's no SAT. There's no ACT. It's all really just subjective flim-flam. There's no external oversight, kind of keeping stuff in line. What do you think? I'm kind of torn. I love college. A lot of serendipity can happen at college. I mentioned I took one acting class. In that class, we got the professor said we could get extra credit if we were an extra in Enemy of the State. It was a Will Smith movie filming in D.C., and my college was in Maryland, about an hour away. So I went to an extras casting call, and I was one of the few young people. I was 18, and I looked, I was 18 or 19. I looked like I was 14. I was one of the few young people at this extras casting call. So pretty quickly thereafter, they started calling me. You want to play this teenager? And then they called, do you want to be a paper boy? And I was like, oh, that sounds like fun. I'll do that. And I really hit it off with the extras casting person. She kept calling me. She convinced me to get management. She's like, you got a good look. You look really young. You should pursue this. You should get a manager. And anyway, 6 months later, I booked a starring role in the John Waters film, Cecil B. Demented. So a lot of amazing serendipity. I've seen it with other friends. I had a friend that got an amazing job offer at graduation. And he was in honors, super smart. So a lot of serendipity can happen at college. I kind of look at it like these parents that say, don't let your kid play travel baseball or soccer. They're not going to go pro. And it's like, is that the goal? Or do you just want your kid to play at a higher level? I did 3 years of travel hockey, and my parents and I had no intention of me going pro or even playing at the college level. So, you really make the most of an opportunity. So is college still worth the money? It's the same experience. It's just that everyone knows that those grades are kind of fudged. So what do you think? Still worth it? Let me know. Leave a comment. Hit the subscribe. Thanks for watching. Check you later. Bye-bye.